Yes, welcome to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. We're live every Saturday from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time right here on LRN.FM. Also, we've got 7 episodes under our belt here, and at the Wednesday live stream of the No State Project, commercial-free, a full hour or so of content. So we have total, with just radio broadcast, 3 solid commercial-free hours on the podcast, available at markstevens.net. 3 solid hours of broadcasting time. That comes out to 4 when we do the live broadcast. So if anybody is confident that they can produce evidence that these magical rules, co-constitutions, laws, and statutes, and common law, and ordinances, regulations apply to us just because we're physically in Arizona or wherever the hell we physically are. The number is 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. You can also Skype me at FrankRizzo3. And you can present your evidence. If any of the videos, any of the broadcasts where I've presented something, you believe I'm in error, my logic is off, my analysis is wrong, my facts are wrong, we're more than happy. We welcome dissent. Hell, we have now another venue for someone to directly communicate with me. I know. I took a while, but I finally got over it yesterday, and I am back on the Facebook. So there's a page for Marc Stevens, and then, of course, I'm the admin, and I started a page for the show, the No State Project. So I am up there. I put a video on it also. And so there's an article and a video so that you know that it is my particular channel. So I don't have a custom URL yet for the No State Project, but it is in there. So it does say Marc Stevens No State Project. The admin is Marc Stevens. It'll be to know it's me, it says the Marc Stevens. So Marc Stevens was already taken. It's kind of a common name. So another venue, though, for people to communicate directly their evidence, their proof, their mind-blowing logic to show that these rules aren't magical, but there is actual earthbound evidence. And I mean facts that are relevant to proving a proposition. Any facts that have a tendency to prove the proposition could be evidence. And if they do prove the proposition, then they are proof. So we welcome that here. We'd love to see that. But I got to address a few things here before we get to the phones. Kind of a excitement. I don't know. It was the blood's going. Maybe it's because I was prepping for the show listening to Slayer, and we have someone new to the chat. And if you want to get in our good graces, it was Travis. So welcome aboard, Travis. I know Nicole is new. Travis had mentioned how much he loved Slayer, so that's always good to have people aboard. So, but I want to get to a couple of issues here. See, Jeff sent this to me. He's going to try to call a live broadcast, but he may not be able to. It says, according to their rules, the prosecution is supposed to have presented at least prima facie evidence of jurisdiction before it can be forced into arraignment. So maybe instead of asking, has the prosecution presented sufficient evidence proving jurisdiction, and getting a whole bunch of BS answers, maybe we can presuppose the answer is yes and skip right to where is the evidence the prosecution has provided proving jurisdiction. This way, no matter what they say, objection, point of clarification, you saying you want to proceed against me absent evidence of jurisdiction, or so you want to proceed against me arbitrarily, or even are you saying the prosecution has not provided sufficient evidence proving jurisdiction? And then how is that not a due process violation? It seems like this could cut out a lot of gaslighting techniques and put them even more into a corner immediately. What are your thoughts on this strategy? I don't agree with doing that because adhering to the Socratic method, we want to be able to get them to contradict themselves. And here we're also wanting to show some due process violations. So I think it's very important to first get an agreement from the prosecution or the judge, where the judge is going to, state what should be obvious, that the prosecution has presented the evidence because he's got the file and right there in front of him. I think it's better to get an agreement first that to a general statement that the prosecution has met their prima facie burden so far. Now we have they may be gaslighting, but I don't think it's as obvious or it's as often with that general question to start off with, because they think the prosecution has submitted the proof. The problem comes in when you start getting more specific and asking for what the particular facts are. What are the specific facts that have a tendency to prove the prosecution's claim? And that's where they fall in. That's the question that brings out the contradiction. Then, if they say that there is evidence that they have met their prima facie burden, then they're going to be contradicting that when you ask the follow-up questions. I think it's because if you go straight into where is the evidence, that's fine. I don't think we get the bad faith evidence that we need to use against them, because they are initially going to lie. I think they're lying. When you first initially say to them, has the prosecution submitted sufficient facts proving jurisdiction? And they say yes. Now they're on the hook for a even more serious due process violation, because you're showing bad faith. They actually lied about what the prosecution had in an effort to just shut you the hell up so that you would enter a plea of not guilty or guilty. Well, they want it guilty. So that's why I wouldn't do that. You're only saving one step, but you're losing an opportunity to get some testimony to prove bad faith. And I think that is something that we want against them. So I wouldn't do that. I'd still just ask the general question, because a lot of times it does get answered. We generally don't get gaslighted on that particular question. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But to me, in the experience that people have related to me in my own direct experience, it's better to get the agreement first that they can then contradict themselves. So that you could say, yeah, of course. You could come out and say, where is the evidence, the prosecution? And the only thing they're going to do is either say, hey, we're not here to discuss that. The prosecution has the evidence and we just want to hear your plea. They could actually say something like, which is fairly standard. They'll ask you a question, and again, you have no business answering this question. They'll say to you, do you have a copy of the complaint? They could even save you the time and not even get into that and say, sir, it's on the complaint. Yes, you can still object and ask him what on his complaint does that. I still think it's better to ask the foundational question, which is general, and then go for the throat, because we're showing extreme bad faith right at the very start of this. Because more than likely what's going to start happening is the judge is already going to start getting upset. Why? Because there is no evidence, and you just caught him covering for the prosecution. That's a bad place to be in. Very bad place to be in. So, I wanted also that someone wanted me to discuss quashing the warrant, information for that. Quashing the warrant, what I always suggest is, look, we're going to quash the warrant for the same reasons that we want the underlying complaint to be vacated or dismissed. And that is that the prosecution has absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support their claim that the Constitution and Code apply because I'm physically in Arizona. So I'm going to be using all the same issues. I'm just going to change the motion to dismiss to have a title of motion to quash, and I'll have reflecting in the actual motion to quash that we want to quash a warrant, not necessarily dismiss a complaint. Well, we'll be back with that and more in just a few moments. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens, author of Government Indicted, a website, markstevens.net. And yes, I am back on the Facebook, so check that out. And finally got a video released for the article regarding territorial jurisdiction, so check that out. That just got posted a day or two ago, so look for that at markstevens.net. So I was talking about quashing a warrant, some information about that. Same principles, same underlying principles, just instead of putting in there that the complaint should be dismissed, we are wanting the warrant to be quashed because the court had no territorial jurisdiction and no personam jurisdiction. Why is that so, you ask? Because it's based on, this is what the article, I go through this again in the article and in the video, because territorial jurisdiction is based on the applicability of the Constitution. And so if the Constitution is applicable in that territory, then the court or the police or another agency would have jurisdiction over the person. And if there is no evidence to prove that, it's just a matter of, hey, I said so, or, hey, our judges that we stole your money from you to pay them, they agree with us. Proof by assertion fallacy. Who gives a damn how many times someone agrees with your assertion? It doesn't matter. There has to be logic and proof. There has to be evidence. If you're going to say a physical written instrument, physical, I'll do the whole stupid Rush thing, right? Physical. If you're going to say a physical earthly thing applies to me, you have to have some proof. That which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I think that was Christopher Hitchens. Hitchens' razor. If you say you don't have to prove it, then the only thing you are proving is that you are dishonest. And I want nothing to do with someone like that. So that's what we're doing now with the quash a warrant. You typically, what I would do is move to have it done on a telephonic hearing and put in there like we discussed before. I am not going to put myself in jeopardy with you people unless until at least the time as the prosecution can pony up some damn proof. So, yeah. Let's get to the calls over here. Again, if you want to join me on the big show today, even if you just want to talk about Slayer or Metallica, Megadeth, that's cool too, and Iron Maiden, that's cool too. The number is 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399, and Skype, of course, is Frank Rizzo 3. But don't just call during a broadcast unless it's like the last live show. And contact me on there first with an IM, and then we'll bring you up here. I think we have Oregon, but we'll find out in a moment. We have area code 541. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Mark. My name's Kevin. I'm calling from Eugene, Oregon. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, hey, and I guessed the area code right, so cool.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Listen, hey, I've been following some people who have been seemingly successful in trying to get their residential property and dwelling off of the county tax assessor roll. And we have a house here in Eugene that's free and clear of any liens or mortgages. And I contacted our tax assessor to see what laws or obligations I have in regards to paying property taxes here in Eugene. And they kindly directed me to check the Oregon revised statutes, in which I did, which seemed to cover all bases on their behalf as far as what my house qualifying for property taxes. But has anybody successfully used your strategy? I have no proof that the statutes apply to me. And I wondered if that would be an approach that I could take with these people and see if that strategy might produce some results for me.
There is, if you go through, it's been a while, but we have had some success with the property tax. However, no one to date, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. No one, while some people have gotten assessments dropped, no one has ever gotten the property taken off of the county's list of taxable properties. It doesn't mean it won't, but it would be one hell of a struggle. I would imagine you'd have to first get your evidence like you would here if you wanted just the assessment to be tossed out. You'd have to get your statements from them, their inability to make their case. You'd have to have their statements to use against them that not only are they acting in bad faith, but they admittedly have no evidence and don't even think they need to have evidence. And so I would use that,
right.
And let's say in a petition for writ of mandamus to force them to purge their record of your property because they have no evidence of jurisdiction to begin with.
Yeah, that is a strategy I'm certainly investigating, and with the help of your information that you provide to us, I'm hopeful that I can give you a success story here in the future. But yeah, I just wondered if that had been something anybody had tried or was a viable strategy. And I thank you for your time today. You have a wonderful show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. If you're going to do that, because you also have the it's not just that. You still have the option of getting some leverage over them if you can file a claim against the county of, is it Eugene County?
Lane County.
Okay, so if you could go and you can file a claim against the county's risk management for the damage that they, for the previous years that they have taken this money from you. And so you can file a claim against them, and that may provide some leverage if you can get past the initial motion to dismiss for them to voluntarily take your name off the tax list. If you can actually show, that you can hit their insurance because they're continuing to do this, that may be some good leverage. But you set it up. This is what I would do. Not only would I contact the agents who work for the county, it's the county treasurer and the county assessor. And I've done this, so if you go through, it's been a couple of years, and I've done this here in Phoenix, and so we have a couple of call of shames that are pretty entertaining about that. And bottom line, they couldn't produce a shred of evidence, which is always good, which is what you're looking for. But I'd also go to the county commissioners. They probably have a monthly public meeting, and you can question them there, get the video, and then that video can be used as evidence in your claim against the insurance company.
That's good advice there, certainly. I need to look into the commissioner meetings and see if it's a public forum and that I can attend. And if there's a opportunity to ask them questions in this regards as well. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And even if you can't, even if they're not going to answer or they don't have a public forum, I would still recommend calling them privately and following up in writing.
Excellent advice.
All right, well,
thank you once again. I'll keep you posted if we make any progress.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate the call. My name is Marc Stevens. Talking with, we'll be back in just a moment. That was Kevin in Oregon. Welcome back to the No State Project right here on LRN.FM from 2 to 5 Mountain Standard Time. It is Sunday morning in Australia, and I don't know, someone told me it was like 9 to noon that the show starts, so I'm glad everyone's tuning in down there. We're going to maybe get some call of shames and get some new reports from someone. I'll be working with someone new in Australia this week, so it's been a while. It has been a while since we've had anyone from down under actually engaged in something, so this should be interesting. This is not a traffic either, so this should be good. If you want to join the big show here today, 218-632-9399. 218-632-9399. Skype then is also Frank Rizzo 3, and I can put you into the Skype chat. And just, I want to point out, I know that there's issues with the chat, and not everybody plays nice with others, and I do my best to monitor it. When it's really bad, we take care of it. But when it's a little bickering, I have to keep saying, Tom, knock it off. Or, just can't we all just get along? The important part about the chat is that We have other rooms that are set up. People who have, yes, even and Tom, and that's why Tom's there, because even though he can be a dick at times, he's been very helpful. Like Gary and there's there's too many to name. We've all been through before. The important thing is that people are able to get help with the role playing in the chat, and there are new people there all the time. There are a few new people there today. Glad to have you aboard. The guys will spend hours of their own time going over and helping to prep for court. We have a few people, one who I haven't seen yet, although there's a couple that you don't know who it is. But Cliff should be there today. He, just like someone else, has got a trial on Monday. So the guys in the chat will more than likely, at least a few of them over the course of the next 48 hours, will be doing quite a bit of role-playing and helping to get people prepped. So it's not perfect, but damn it, we've got a hell of a track record of helping people, so I'm happy about that. But he's been on his show before, Soulless Productions, our own Ginger from Texas. Welcome back.
Mark, thanks for having me back. It is a great pleasure to be here. I do have a lot of stuff to go over here today, so I'll try to, keep as much short as possible. The first thing I know that we really have been wanting to get to is that dismissal of mine with the obstruction, and those motions, right?
That is a tech issue, and to be fair, it's all your fault. Well, okay. I think it's both of our fault, but a lot of it has to do with we'd like to be able to get it HD, but the only way to do it HD is if we just do a voiceover of a screen recording.
Right. Well, we'll try some of that, but to speak on that, just I have those videos on my channel, like you said, Soulless Productions on YouTube. It's the Judge Longoria series with the prosecutor simply said that the only evidence they need in order to come back with the guilty verdict is the fact that an officer threw me in jail, and that they can testify and get a jury to come back with the guilty verdict.
Who said that? The judge did?
No, the prosecutor. Because the judge said, I have no the judge said, I have no file, so I deny your motion because it's premature. I have no file in front of me. And then I called him, obviously, objection, point of clarification. There's no file in front of you. I moved to dismiss. He's like, well, I have nothing in front of me that shows that I should be able to dismiss it. I'm like, well, that's the point. You have absolutely nothing in front of you. Wow. Prosecutor failed to state a case. You should dismiss. He's like, I can't do that. We're going to give the prosecutor 30 more days.
Whoa. You see, you hit the nail right on it. There's nothing in front of you in order to keep proceeding against me. That is, oh man! You see, it's things like that I can feel myself getting cancer.
Yeah.
Oh, what a look! I have to interject here for just a second here, okay? What gets me, and I know I've said this before, but it to me that is just demonstrating such arrogance and nothing but disdain for you as an adult to say things that are so absolutely wrong, it's as if we are so grotesquely stupid that somehow the neurons just don't fire normally, like we can't form a cohesive thought or communicate in proper English, that they could say something so absolutely false with a straight face. You would, and it goes to just how in bed together the prosecution and the judges are, that they won't even say, excuse me, sir, not for nothing, I have nothing but disdain for Ginger here also. But if I think he's right. If you don't have any evidence, sick. My little rant is over. So,
no, like I said, and one thing that is very unique to this specific situation is the fact that I actually brought a camera in, and I had a video recorder. It wasn't a cell phone, because it wasn't that, but it was an actual video camera, and I had it, and I was recording the entire time, and I have those videos on there. Now, keep in mind, the judge did try moral suasion as I was walking up, he called me, and as I was walking up, he's like, turn that camera off. I just respectfully said, I need it so I can have a proper record for later. And he just left it at that. He's like, okay, well, we're here for blah, 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 whatever. What are you trying to do? As you see on my channel. So everyone's asking me, how do I do this? How do I keep it at arraignment? How do you get success, Ginger? How do you get success? And I say, hard work, not accepting what they say as truth without clarifying it, and always being persistent. You got to be prepared to mitigate damages, but if you want to go in and make a principled stand, you're going to have to be prepared for the violence that comes with it, Mark, and we know about this.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I have to ask, as like kind of a devil's advocate here, well, and it's always good to take an opposite view. Not that we necessarily believe it, but just to flesh out the concepts, the ideas, and see how firm your position is. And here, looking from hindsight, that your ticket, and we have the proof on the website, and you have it on your Soulless Productions on YouTube, which I recommend people go check out. The critics would say, but Ginger. Yes, it was thrown out, but you have no evidence that the judge did it based on any of the defense that you raised. None of your appearances, you have no evidence that anything you did through all these appearances that had anything to do with why the judge ultimately threw it out.
Respectfully, I disagree, and I have the evidence to say why.
Well, I know that you were personally. I know that you were personally involved here, and I'm just some YouTube scumbag commenter. I get that, but you were personally involved with this. But still, what proof do you have that the judge did any dismissed based on any part of your defense?
Insufficient evidence. It's direct evidence. We challenge their specific codes of applicability with your motions, Mark. These motions are direct. They get straight to the point, and I definitely recommend that people go out and definitely get the motions, because that helps out with defending yourself. But with the motions, the role playing, the evidence that we have is the fact that we submitted the motions and they dismissed it with insufficient evidence. The fact that they could have attempted to prosecute, they could have attempted to force their way through verdicts.
Ginger, just hold on a second. We're up against the break, so just hold tight for a moment. My name is Marc Stevens, listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, talking with Ginger. Great material. Ginger of Soulless Productions on YouTube. We'll be back with that in just a few moments, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. I'm Marc Stevens. The website is marcstevens.net. We're talking with Ginger of Soulless Productions. So welcome back. Ginger, the question that I had is, I know you submitted the motions, but I think you've already mentioned the evidence on the show today, at least the statements from the judge and prosecutor that you could use to show from your personal firsthand knowledge that the judge did dismiss based on what you presented, because the judge agreed there was no evidence before them from the prosecution. That's why they were given the prosecution 30 more days.
Right. And respectfully, we're going to go ahead and just play the devil advocate for the other side. The judge being a fair and impartial, we're going to give him justice once and say that maybe, you know what, it's kind of, a few weeks out. The prosecution may need some more time. There might have been a mix-up, whatever. We'll give it to him. So he said, you know what, we're going to give the prosecution 30 more days. But if you look and research online with their orders or whatever that timekeep that they have that you did the video on, it shows that they received the file and then they dismissed it for insufficient evidence. Even though the judge presumed that he had jurisdiction, that the prosecution was going to be able to satisfy that at a later date, as much of an ethical issue that is, we're dealing with it on the side burner. We're just going to say, all right, let him go ahead with it for now. But when they did receive the file, the judge said, there's no evidence here, so we have to dismiss it. That is like, again, it's not, he did not say those words straight out of his mouth, but there's so much damning evidence against it, especially with the video that I captured, the motions that we filed, the fact that he said he was going to give him more time to get a file in front of him. And then when the quote-unquote court received the file, they realized that there's no evidence there. They had to dismiss it, which they did.
Which they did. And of course, you're speaking from personal, unlike critics and me, you're speaking from direct personal firsthand experience. And you have video proof of this.
Right. Mark, the Socratic method is only as effective as the person that wields the Socratic method. You can go in there and attempt to use the Socratic method, think that you're as effective as you can be, but the reality of it is I spend hours in our role-playing chat helping others, brainstorming new ideas with Gary, Joe from Cop Watch Hawaii, Ozzy, Gabe, James. We have so many to name that are helping out, that are constantly in there. So you can't just come out and think that you spent 3 hours doing a little bit of research, tried to question a little bit, and thought that you're going to be a professional. It doesn't work that way. You have to be effective at every point and every step of the way. And I'm not saying that I am the best at it, but, I do have my faults. But I'm still working at it. You have to put the time in. You have to be willing to take that principle stand and hold them to their burden and embarrass them with everything that they respond with using the Socratic method.
Yeah, it's imperative that you do the role playing so that you do get your sea legs, so to speak. So you have that experience. So it's not a new thing. Yeah, it's not the same as court, but it's very similar. You're just engaging other people. And again, I've said before, the big problem comes in when people stray from the Socratic method and start making affirmative statements. That's bad. So,
right, the person who makes the assertion bears the burden of truth. So you don't make assertions, you don't make statements or affirmative defenses. You just simply clarify the assertions that have already been made and embarrass the prosecution because they have failed to state a case, and then embarrass the judge because at some point the judge is going to have to step up for the benefit of the prosecution. Otherwise, they're going to undermine their entire system, and they don't want to do that. That's where we want to hit them at, as a big political stance, and embarrass them with words that are coming out of their mouth, not ours.
Yeah, it's and part of it, you realize the effectiveness because a lot of the times what they'll do to deflect the attention away from their lack of evidence to support their claims is to turn around and say that your argument is frivolous or your argument is invalid. And we're able to stand there confidently and say, I'm not making an argument. What argument are you talking about? And the only thing, if they're honest, that they can say is, you're saying the laws don't apply to you. No! What we are clearly stating is you can't support your claim that they do. Now, if you disagree with that, fine. Reasonable people can disagree. Now we're back to square one. Would you like to put the evidence on the table, or do you want to continue being a jackass and trying to deflect the attention away from you? So it's so important that's just an example of why it's so effective, why you're right. You have to stick to the program, the tactic. The only affirmative statements that you should make, if you have to, is the prosecution hasn't met their burden. They haven't presented a single fact to support their claim is true. Right. Then when they disagree with that, then where is it?
Right. And if they ask you, well, you're making an assertion now, like if they try to get smart, well, you're making an assertion, you're saying the prosecution hasn't stated a case, where's your evidence? The evidence is the fact that I don't have the evidence I'm looking for.
What?
That's my evidence.
Well, when they say, where's your evidence to support your claim, it's like, I've asked you several times. I can document, I have a motion to dismiss. That is part of my statement of fact. You have not responded. You have tried to gaslight me. You have even said that you don't have to prove that. You have said my argument is frivolous in a bad faith attempt to divert attention away. So that we can show. We can. So or from a deeper level, if they say, where is your evidence proving that these laws don't apply? Because you're just a group of men and women forcing us to pay you.
Yeah.
Do I have to go further? Yeah. Do I have to roast you even further? Do you want me to continue? Your laws, because you've actually said your laws apply to me because you put other people in prison. Do I have do we have to go further? Oh, you've actually said you don't have to prove it. Do we need more of your statements here? You know, that the only reason why you think these apply is because you're willing to put me in jail. That's it.
Right. And also, like, recently, I've been holding up with this. You know, that one that I got dismissed was a portion of the charges that were against me. They were what they called the county charges at the district court, because that faced jail time. But now now the ones that I want to speak to is the fine only at the municipal court. You know, they call them the city level, whatever, because they're fine only. And like you said, they say, you know, it's just the violence. Well, I went in there recently to clarify, as my new video shows, King Group Series Part 4 on my channel. It shows, you know, a bailiff that gets violent and he assaults me, but then I leave there with assault charges, but we'll go over that in a minute. But I clarify with the prosecution, and he tries to, one, gaslight me, then two, use a logical fallacy to, I think it's appeal to authority. And he said, if I cannot meet the very basic minimum that is required for me to go to trial, I wouldn't even attempt to go to trial. And if you really dissect that, the very basic minimum is not much at all. They just need to have a cop testimony in their eyes, which doesn't even satisfy anything, whether the codes apply to me or not. And people accept this to be true. So the fact that they just have a cop that has a gun that can use violence against you proves that their rules apply. That is ridiculous. And like you said, prosecutions say it all the time.
They do. They do. They don't necessarily say it too often in court, but boy, without the judge present, they say it all the time. I don't have to prove that, and the judge won't make me. Oh, wow, nice cozy position you got with the judge. Have you been sleeping together long?
Or playing golf too long together, you know? Have a good nice hole?
Yeah, just how long have you been filleting this judge?
Right.
I'm sorry, but you know I cleaned up the language there. So, but that shows that definitely show. I mean, when a prosecutor is coming out and saying something like that and being so bold about it, especially around people like you who are filming, they know. Look, they know that they can say pretty much anything they want and get away with it. They have full, absolute prosecutorial immunity. There's not a day he can tell you, sir, I can walk into your home in the middle of the night, shoot you in the back of the head, and get away with it. He can say that on video, and there's nothing you can do to have him held accountable for something like that. Nothing. He's completely immune, these crooks.
Right, and the funny part is, the moment that we challenged the prosecution, he had no problem with me filming him. But the moment that I effectively challenged his response and calling him out as a logical fallacy, he then completely shut down, retracted everything he said, and got violent, requested a bailiff, and tried to shut the camera down. And this is on my newest video.
Wow, I need to see this. All right. Okay, hold on. We'll be back with Ginger in Texas in just a few moments. Don't go away. Welcome back to the No State Project, second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM. And yes, by anarchy, what we mean here is an absence of rulers. We reject the concept of a violent ruling class. If you advocate for a violent ruling class, such as what we all have right now, then you're not an anarchist. Seems pretty damn straightforward to me. We also reject the double standard for the logical fallacy that it's okay to lie, steal, kill, and cheat people for no other reason than you call yourself a government. And no, you are not correct when you say, but the people agreed. No. What part of pay or go to jail are you not getting? You either pay or you go to jail. It was the same way in 1775, in 1875, and it's the same today. You pay, you go to jail. There is no evidence whatsoever to negate that. Those are the hardcore. Look, those are the facts. You have to follow what the data says. That's what the evidence tells us every single day. Pay or go to jail. Even critics, if you pay, they'll just put you in prison. You're no kidding, because you're a bunch of criminals, a violent ruling class. We reject that here on the No State Project because it's a moral issue. It's an ethical issue. It's wrong to lie, steal, kill, and cheat people, even if you call yourself a government. And we bring that contradiction out in court. And because they know, and Ginger from Texas, who's back with us, can testify because he's done this. He's got video of this on Soulless Productions on YouTube. They know it's wrong most of the time, which is why we get these things tossed out. If they had more psychos in there, we wouldn't be able to get these things tossed out because they wouldn't care. Right, Ginger?
All right, yeah. One thing that I do want to say is that we have to highlight the violence. Just like you're calling out any liar and then they start responding with violence, same thing happens with these criminals, with these violent people calling themselves government that are saying that they're there to help us, and no way they are. We reject the double standard, and we don't advocate violence, and no way are we antagonizing these people by challenging them with their assertion that their codes and constitution apply. And the evidence that I have of this is the fact that they have no problem being on film, gaslighting you, feeding you logical fallacies, hoping that you're just part of the sheeple, that you're just a sheep that just listens to what they say and follow along, get in line. But the moment that you challenge them on their craziness and you point out how illogical their stance is, they get violent. That's all they have to resort to. And as you see in my latest video, Kangaroo Court Part 4, the prosecution requests for a bailiff because I challenge him and call out his logical fallacies. Then he gets violent, asks me to stop recording because he knows how effective I'm about to be and he does not want to be embarrassed. So what do? They pass the embarrassment along to violence, and then they get violent.
But, that violence isn't just for you. That violence is for the people that are watching your videos. That violence is for the people that are in the courtroom, specifically, more so for the people in the courtroom. And it's a message. Don't you dare cross us. We have the ability and the willingness to hurt you real bad, and we have no problem doing it. These are the type of people that will rip a newborn baby out of the arms of a mother for no other reason than they're doing just what you did by challenging the prosecution and calling them out on a logical fallacy. And I think that has something to do with the arrogance, too, that they think that they have this elite education, that they are the only ones who understand logical fallacies. They're the only ones who understand objections, that they're the only ones that understand obscure Latin phrases like vox et praetera nihil. Get off your damn... the thing is, there's a reason why they're so arrogant. It's because they're higher on the political pecking order. And when you give somebody absolute, irresponsible control over someone else's life and property, that is going to create a monster. That creates the psychopathic tendencies. Now, I want to point out, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily psychopathic, but they have the same tendencies to not give a damn about the people that they're hurting.
Right, and one thing that we press hard in the role plays is not only the foundation of calling out the nonsense of these logical fallacies, the non sequiturs, and all of these tactics that they use to just push you along the process. We can articulate violence that they are. Well, we can articulate different defenses that show their violence and how they respond, and we have tactics of how to respond with that violence. Once they relinquish that safety net of their politically correct or their public relations, once they release that safety net of their PR and show that they're just going to become violent, that's where we start getting dismissals. It's not the fact that we can just submit the motion, say the correct words, and we're going to win. No, it's a fight to show how much nonsense they respond with. And we have to hold them to that in order to get the victory. They'll respond with violence, call it out in concise responses, and clarify and highlight that, and that's where we start getting, once we get public backing on our side.
Yeah, see, that's why more people need to do the role-playing, more people need to be going to the city council meetings and confronting them directly. This is a moral issue. They are criminals, and we are using the Socratic method of just asking questions to get them to verify their position, to bring out their contradictions, and to bring out the gun under all that paperwork. Look, it's not a personal thing. It sort of is a little bit, but not too much. That I got on video a sitting councilman, Colby Granville, saying we have jurisdiction because we say so, and none of the media would pick it up. You think someone in the media like, wow, we have an opportunity to embarrass a politician, and he's running next year. Nothing. I mean, nothing. And I can prove it because I have a call to shame from one of the news stations here in Phoenix to prove that nobody was interested. Well, Mark, you just showed one. Well, yeah, I know. But one was sufficient to give you the general attitude that I encountered. And if anyone doubts that, take the video that I've done and shop it around. Take the video that we have of Scott Bales, the Supreme Court Chief Justice here in Arizona. Shop it around. See how many of the media are willing to play that video. See how many of the media are willing to even investigate anything about that video and find out what's going on there. You'll get the same response that I did. So independently verify whether I'm telling the truth or not. And if by chance you actually find someone in the media that is interested in doing that, then bravo. Great. Prove me wrong. That's something I would enjoy being proven wrong about.
Just like asking a lawyer to help you challenge jurisdiction, no matter how much money you're going to give to them, they can't do it because it'll be career suicide. Just like the media, they cannot cover specific stories because they are controlled by the courts themselves.
But we're not even talking about a specific story as far as, Scott Bales, and we're talking about just me confronting them and having video about what happened. I think as far as the media, they are in bed with the government. The majority of their stories happen to be government, right?
Right.
Now, if an editorial board, let's say, if they were to get on the bad side of a particular government agency or local government, then they are going to be limited on how many stories they're going to be able to get. So, it's self-preservation, I think, is part of it. Another thing is they're so conditioned to believe this stuff that it's almost like they can't wrap their mind around the actual facts. Like that idiot who kept on saying to me from that news editor, Mark, your argument has no merit. Jackass, I am not presenting you an argument. It's a video. Your argument has no merit. I'm like, oh, you know what? Go back to filleting the judges all you want. All right, we'll be back in just a few moments here on the No State Project. Don't go away. That is the most times I've said fillet on the show, I think, in all these years.
What do you mean when you say fillet? Are you talking about, like, fellatio or what?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured.
That's exactly what I mean.
That's why there's so much, like, private media with the internet nowadays, with social media, and you have live broadcasts with YouTube and Facebook. You have all of these different, just social media that allow people that have an opinion to go and videotape and get their opinion out there. And it shows that these criminals still respond violently, even with people that call themselves citizens, people that claim that the Constitution applies to them and that they have protected rights. They say that they're acting against these rights. Even when, quote unquote, self-acclaimed citizens are saying that they have protected rights and they're exercising them, you still have these policy enforcers, officers, police officers, people, men and women with guns enforcing malum prohibitum rules in order to, stop this outbreak of free speech, of exposing these criminals. one way or another, it's going to get out there, and that's where it's damning. The mainstream media has no effect anymore because of social media, and because of social media, you have so many quote-unquote independent people that are out there exposing the corruption in many different ways, from challenging jurisdiction or even challenging the rights that they think are afforded to them by the Constitution. And in no way or sense or form are they actually guaranteed, because they're still being imposed upon without any evidence. It's just the fact that they have a gun, you comply or you die. And that's the point that we're trying to get across.
Yeah. In a nutshell, comply or die is how they do it. And that exposes them as not governments. It exposes them as just criminals. They're
right.
operating exactly as a criminal.
And it shows their violence that they're just going to respond to. And then they're like, you know what? As long as we can convince 12 people, or in some cases 6, that you're a bad person, then we're just going to throw you in a cage and then deal with it, because you had your day in court. Out of the 300 million people in the population, they find 12 people, which I can easily go on YouTube and name 12 people that they can sit on a jury that, regardless of factual evidence, they'll disagree with.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. As long as they get that people inside of a courtroom, they'll deny you voir dire. And then next thing you know, the upper court, the appellate court's like, well, it wasn't preserved and blah, 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 so you have to deal with it. And they justify it. There's no justice. There's no such thing as justice. And there's no manifest conception of justice. It's all just a violent imposition. Pay us, comply or die.
It's like we said so many times. It's Paulie. F you, pay me.
Right. If you don't want to pay me, then you know what? I have someone that is a hired goon that knows how to pull a trigger. And if you don't want a bullet to the chest, then you know what? You better cough up from your wallet. Yeah. And it's something that is an outbreak that is going to be exposed. It's been exposed with the No State Project, with the success stories that we have, and it's being exposed with the social media from everybody that is challenging this thing called a state, because they have had it. They realize that there is no such thing as fairness, and that they're just going to do whatever they want. You can't even vote, because your vote doesn't matter, and voting is foolish. You go and vote for what they're going to do when you have no obligation to follow what they want. And what they want is never in the interest of what you actually have based on ethics and logic. It's all about political. It's all about their pocketbook and their wallet. And if you don't comply with that, then you could end up being imposed upon.
Yeah, we're back here live, and I know you can't hear the bumper, but it's pulling teeth. It's the one and only Cliff Burton, the late Cliff Burton of Metallica. Who, there was a reason why the quality of the songs dropped after 1986, because Cliff was no longer with us. Still a great band. Well, you know, at least until the Napster thing came out. But welcome back, everyone, to the No State Project. Talking with Ginger. One of the things we mentioned off-air, and all the off-air commentary, we don't have as much we don't have as much as we used to do, but Ginger hit the nail right on the head. What we're doing is exposing the basic principle that these people called government operate under, and it's comply or die. And you can't accuse me or Ginger of hyperbole when we say that. And the only way that you can justify saying something like that is if you're one of these bottom feeders who blames the victim. Because you have to look at the full context, or as full of a context of a situation, before you can really make an informed decision or opinion or inference. And that is, if you don't comply, they will kill you. They will kill you. There is, I mean, since cell phones, especially, with my gosh, they've had HD cell phones for years now, and there's ample evidence online of people doing nothing violent and being murdered by the police. And yes, even juries have convicted police officers of murder and manslaughter. So it does happen. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So the fact is, when the cop is given a warrant for your arrest, in his mind, the judge has authorized him to use deadly force to get you apprehended and put into their cage. Deadly force! You could blame the victim. You should have just complied. And my only response to that is you shouldn't have fought. You should have just undressed, lay down, spread him wide, and you should have just taken it. He didn't have to kill you. You made him. I mean, come on. This is. So the idea that is hyperbole, no, that's wrong. Because you could say the same thing about a mafia shakedown. Hey, it's your fault they burned the building down. You didn't pay them. You just had to comply. So it's like Paulie said, F you, pay me. And that's what we are doing here on the show. We are doing our part to help bring it about a voluntary society by exposing the gun in the room, and that these people do not deserve one iota of respect. They are not honorable. They are criminals. They are dangerous. So I know I've caught some slack even from those friendly to me that I will not do activism directly with police officers. It's just too dangerous. It's too dangerous. They are dangerous individuals.
Roadside philosophy is one of the most dangerous. And again, if you're out there being specifically targeted on a stop, make sure that you secure your safety first, because they are violent. And that's one thing that we want to make sure that we mitigate is the damages that they're trying to impose. Depending on how far you want to take it and how much time you want to invest determines how much risk you're willing to take. Just like Robbie with Judge Angel, really bad name, Robbie was willing to push it so far, and he's still out there fighting, which is great, because at some point, everybody's going to start recognizing that they only have violence to keep us into control, and that they do not allow any type of clarification to their assertion. And it's just pay me or we're going to impose upon you with violence. Yeah. And if you're effective enough to challenge them, you will die.
Yeah, you can die. Yeah, it's very possible. And in answer to people, what is it that you want, Mark? What is it you ultimately want? I think the only real change I want to see happen, because this will take care of everything else. And I don't really know too many people that would disagree with this. Most people I've spoken to have agreed to this. All we want to see change is the manner in which people called government are paid. We want it on a voluntary basis. That's it. If that's the only change that is made, there would be a drastic change socially across the board in how people are treating each other. That would be because once you do that, you mentioned about the futility of voting. People will now see, oh, now if I want to vote and I do so economically with my pocketbook, it actually counts. Imagine that. It's the only. So find somebody that would disagree with changing the manner in which the services are provided as far as how you pay for them. Make them voluntary, not compulsory. It seems like it's a tiny change. But the psychological and social effects of that would be ginormous. Think about it. So before anyone says that we're extreme, we think people should pay for the services that they want and not be coerced to pay for services, even if they want the service. I want to I know it's a classic example though of a liberalism, classic liberalism, and involuntarism or anarchy or libertarianism, is that it should be it by choice. But we're preaching to the choir here. We just want people to be able to choose the services. So that even, I want to buy food. I don't need to be forced to buy food. And that's what it's been brought up so many times. Food is absolutely essential to your survival. It's that and air is the most important thing for you. Food, water, and air. But you don't have people called the government forcing you generally to get food. So that one little tweak. Hey, here's a thought. Stop killing people, you twats, to quote a line.
If we can really challenge them on that violence, it would be essential to our defense.
It is.
As much as everyone knows that there's violence, they're still worried about their safety. They recognize the violence. And some people, you ask them, why don't you challenge them? And it's because they're like, well, I'll, end up in a cage, or I'll end up even worse, as a John Doe in a black bag somewhere in someone's basement. No one wants to end up like that, but we have tactics with role-playing in order to mitigate those damages, how to handle the threat of violence against you. And that's just number 2 in the 1, 2, 3s that we use to challenge the tactics of these courts in claiming that their assertions are true. We recognize the threat of violence, the gun in the room, and we point it out with a very specific magnifying glass to show that there's no voluntary aspect to this, even though you want to portray that by saying, well, you're here voluntarily. No, I'm here because of the threat of violence of further imposition from a warrant.
It's like, hey, could you take the blindness off for a second, or stop treating me like I'm retarded and treat me like an adult? I am not here voluntarily, you criminal, you. It's like when we ask them, you think I'm here voluntarily so I can leave without any repercussions at all? You just leave me alone? Well, no. Well, then thanks for confirming that I'm not the one that's delusional here. You are. Yeah, voluntarily. I tell you, it took. We're out of time here for this segment, but it always gets me when they get upset that when we bring up we're participating on a threat to arrest and coercion. Who's threatening you? You are, you black robe. Well, we're out of time in this segment. We got a lot of calls.
Marc, it was great being with you. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Thank you for having me on the No State Project show.
Yeah, appreciate the call. Ginger in Texas. Everyone check out Soulless Productions on YouTube. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens, author of Government Indicted, which you can get today at markstevens.net. And if you are being attacked by a bureaucrat, we got plenty of examples of how effective, to go in addition to the of course, the unsolicited testimony of Ginger, who runs his own, YouTube channel, Soulless Productions, and he was able to. He came on the show and appreciate that about how effective using the Socratic method from the anarchist standpoint against them has been at getting things tossed out. Now, people can complain and say all sorts of things. Oh yeah, it's no evidence, but people who are looking at it honestly and are looking at the actual proof, the documents that were filed, the motion to dismiss, the reliance on the Brady request / discovery request, constantly plugging away at the foundation of the prosecution's case, which is hey, Ginger was physically in Texas, the Constitution laws apply. The judge actually said, he's got a video of this with the prosecutor too, the prosecution didn't have the evidence and that they had 30 days to provide it. So you can say it's look. I accept, and we've mentioned this before, and it's in the video about it, that there are other plausible explanations for why it was thrown out. But you cannot say that there's only that one explanation, which all the circumstantial evidence supports that it was thrown out because of Ginger's effective and adamant defense. To say that it had nothing to do with that is just pure dishonesty and shilling for a group of criminals calling themselves government. Honest people would say, "Yeah, there's more than one explanation for this, of course." But the circumstantial evidence points overwhelmingly to what Ginger, who is there, testified to. So that's how you could tell an honest critic, yeah, there are other explanations. This may be the most probable. Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't like it. But yeah, it's the most probable. But people who are posting on YouTube aren't usually very honest. They're just usually scumbags. But before I bring up my next caller, I have to play this, and I'm pretty certain he can hear it.
And as for my American friend, the CIA thinks it can infiltrate the mountain of Dr. Crud.
You can't scare me, you slant-eyed yellow bastard.
take him to Detroit.
No! No, not Detroit! No! No, please!
That is always funny. So now we all know we're bringing Tom back on the show. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, Mark, how are you? Can you hear me decent?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Hey, I got the jam for like 2 hours last night.
Oh, yeah. I actually put in 3. Anyway, we won't go there. I have a few things I really like to discuss, and I'd like to stay on topic here, the NSP for once.
Hey.
One,
Wait a minute. We're halfway done with the show. We've got time. If we're going to discuss music, we can.
All right. If you had a good night on a Friday night, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, we actually had a new guy sit in who also plays bass guitar, more of a bassist, but a pretty good guitar player. And man, it was fun. So it was 4 of us. So it was pretty cool. You would have been proud. I was trading off on Paranoid with the other guitar player who's lightning. I mean, this guy's light years ahead of me, but he's good. He's good. So I didn't do. Look, I just wanted to initially, my first time trading leads with him, I wanted to just run through a loose rendition of the studio version solo. But then the second time I played that, but then the rest of it was improvised. You would have been proud. It was pretty good. The second run through was pretty good. It was a lot of fun. I'm almost there to where I can nail the studio solo, but we'll get it.
You need to record some of it. Make this your bumper music, man. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
We will. Yesterday, was one of those things we didn't know if it was going to happen, and it was just one of those things. The guitar player just happened. I didn't have a car to get over to the drummer's house, and the other guitar player, he was the last job of the day. He was going to be 2 miles away from me, so he drove me up there, and it was great. It was great. So we played mainly blues improv, but we played a couple of like Paranoid and a few other things. And we played Roadrunner, more in the vein of how the Who did it.
Cool. Did your wife ever get a chance to come out and listen to you jam?
Well, she picked me up yesterday, so we played a couple songs. My wife sang a couple songs with us. So we did Stevie Ray's we did Stevie Ray's Looking Out the Window. And then we do a really bluesy version of Elvis doing Love Me. Yeah.
Cool, and your wife sings with you. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, all right, well, let's get into what I know you had a bunch of questions.
Yep. Well, since Ginger was just on, and I'm going to post this in the chat right now so people can open it if they like, because I'd like them to look at it. I'm always talking about the disposition and how important that can be, because sometimes we really don't know, especially at the beginning, if the judge entered a guilty or not guilty plea for us or what's going on. And at the end of the case, and this one I'm a little confused with this one on Ginger, it was dismissed, but then the disposition, if you look at it, a disposition goes from bottom to top, date-wise, and you can see he was dismissed on 12-1, but then there's there's files received, but then it goes on to 12-9, hearing waived, then 12-9, awaiting hearing, and then 12-9, pretrial conference. So it's a bit confusing, and if you don't get your disposition, sometimes things are going on, and you don't even know it, and then maybe there, as his judge said on that recording, okay, he said Ginger was adamant about having him dismiss it, and the judge says, well, if I dismiss it, the DA will just go back upstairs and refile it, and there'll be another warrant out. And Ginger said, well, you can dismiss it with prejudice, and then it's done. And the judge, I can't do that. Well, now here it's dismissed, and then on 12-9, there's a pretrial conference. I'm confused, and, I'm real adamant about people getting their disposition to see what is actually on the record and in the record.
Yes, it's a bad. So, I think though Ginger's one is a bad example to use because it's easily explained. But even when I saw it, there were some critics that were posting about it on the video, and even they were saying, "Oh, well, that's easily explained away. That they had it set up and they just didn't. It was dismissed. It was definitely dismissed. They just haven't cleaned up the online record."
Okay. Well, again, I just tell everybody that I talk to make sure they get the disposition even after the first arraignment. It takes a little time to see if in fact, even though you think you walked out with no plea entered, there may perhaps be a plea entered in that disposition, and you kind of want to know that. I think that's important.
Well,
yeah, file a motion to quash it if there is.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, you did. Yeah, yes. It's. I was just saying that Ginger's example is not the best example because it's easily explained as to what probably happened. I mean, it's been dismissed, and he can testify that it's we have the documentation to show that. So, but it is important to know if they have entered a plea. So, yes, you definitely want to check that out because you're right. If they have entered a plea and you haven't done that, then you want to have it stricken. I would certainly want to file a motion to strike that. And if I had been trying to plead guilty, then I would recommend all the putting in all the errors that the judge committed, including his the due process violation of carrying, basically lying on behalf of the prosecution. We're up against the break, Tom, so just hold on for a moment. We'll be right back. And if you want to join us, the number is 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. We'll be back in just a few moments. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. The greatest heavy metal song, probably the greatest song ever recorded. I guess the guys on the podcast may not know, but that was Iron Maiden's Hallowed Be Thy Name from one of the best, got to be the best heavy metal album of all time, Number of the Beast. My gosh, Tom, do you believe that was 1982?
Yeah, I know. It kind of dates us, doesn't it? I'm older than you are, brother.
Yeah, I was a kid.
Q and I just saw Iron Maiden just recently here in the area, so that was a killer concert, by the way.
I'll date myself. I was still a teenager when I saw them. I saw them on a Somewhere in tour, and I think it was '88, and it was in Jersey at the Meadowlands, and it was epic. They were at, I mean. Yeah, I know they peaked with Power Slave, but live they were just wow. Yeah.
They still are, even at this age. I mean, the show we saw was excellent, man. Right on. I mean, the vocals were, he can still sing just like he did. Think about all the time, I forget the singer's name right now, but anyway, think of all the
Bruce
time
Dickinson.
He became an airline pilot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Bruce Dickinson.
Cool guy.
Yeah. Yes, Bruce Dickinson.
But anyhow, I digress.
Well,
Terry Hardy.
There was. I don't want to forget what was brought up in the chat because it's very important. Because this is an important issue, and I'm glad that you did raise it. But one of the things we were mentioning on the chat was not only can they falsify a record and say that a plea was taken, or that you did plea, there can be ex parte communication and things going on with the prosecution. I can't say I've seen this very often, but it does happen more than it should, of course, that they can blow past things and just put in there that a pretrial was done.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to look. We cannot gloss over how the importance of the Brady request is, and I mentioned this on the Wednesday show too. The Brady request is extremely important because what it's doing, we're exposing their prime weakness. They do not have a competent witness against you. There is nobody who can competently testify that the laws apply to you because the rules require personal first-hand knowledge, and you can't have personal first-hand knowledge of evidence that doesn't exist. And so if they were to do something like that and gloss over that there was no, and make it look like there was a pretrial, that's bad. And so you have to be very diligent, like Ginger said. It includes really harping on the Brady request, which there is no, Look, Brady is a continuing obligation. It's not one of those things where we're already at trial. Sorry. Oh, no, you've been convicted. Sorry. Brady is continuing. And someone actually told me the other day, Tom, gosh, I don't know who it was. Maybe they can call in if they're listening. They raised the Brady violation to the judge, and the judge said that they had never heard of that before. They didn't even know what a Brady request was.
Huh. Well, that's a good point you just made. I've never heard anyone, we asked for the Brady. I know what it is, and I know the purpose, but how does someone raise a Brady violation, and what was it?
We raised the Brady violation, well, all right, we raised it by the motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct. We also had the motion in limine, but I would file both, but I would really push for the dismissal and the prosecutorial misconduct. What it is, the Brady violation itself is the fact that you have requested from the prosecutor the name of the witness with personal firsthand knowledge they rely on, that the laws apply to you just because you're physically in Arizona or Detroit, and that they haven't given it to you. This is, I'll explain again, it's very important. The prosecutor is obligated to give you all exculpatory evidence. This includes any material relevant to impeaching one of his witnesses. A way to impeach a witness is using Rule 602, that the witness lacks personal knowledge of the matter that they're testifying to. The prosecutor has to know that the witness does not have such personal knowledge, so he's obligated to give you that. Even if we give him the benefit of the doubt for sake of argument, he has to give you the name of the witness he relies on with personal knowledge. Even if he doesn't, they have to give you, and they don't do that. So that is how they do that. That's how they violate Brady, by not giving you the name of that witness, or not saying that the witness has personal knowledge, or not being honest with you and saying the witness doesn't have personal knowledge. Because as you know, he will come out and say he lacks personal knowledge when you cross-examine the police officer.
Right, and so by count, how do I put this? Do you file a motion that he violated the Brady request? Is that how you would go about holding their feet to the fire?
Yes, there's two motions.
Okay.
The motion in limine.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, yep. I know what that is. Yeah, go ahead and explain it for those that don't know.
Sure. The motion in limine is a standard motion that either side can use that will limit the arguments and the evidence that the prosecution or defense can use. And so if you have evidence to show that the prosecution is arguing a particular point without evidence, then the motion in limine, if granted, well, what it seeks to do is an order from the judge limiting the prosecution so that they cannot raise that argument at trial.
And it also helps to not allow things like your past record or things like that.
Yes.
That can also be used there.
Yeah. They used a motion in limine, of course, in the that movie where they talk. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. To Make a Murderer, where they would not. The prosecution successfully argued a motion in limine that the defense could not argue or raise present any evidence that indicated that somebody else did the murders. Now.
Yeah, I remember that.
Look, that to me was the only evidence needed that the fix was in for a conviction. The only piece of evidence. Nothing else. I mean, yes, there's a lot. The Avery case. There's a lot of other things, but the fact that you will not allow evidence. I'm talking facts that are relevant, facts that have any tendency to prove a proposition, and to not allow that in a murder trial. The fact that judge wasn't burned at the stake for that, I mean metaphorically, is a testament to just how. I don't want to get... Okay, but the other thing is, the other point that you were asking, I want to answer the rest of the questions. The motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct is the other one where we're bringing out the Brady violation, and that because of his misconduct, because he is arguing without evidence, he cannot prove his case beyond a reasonable doubt. It should be tossed out with prejudice.
Right. Okay, good. I've been jotting a note down because I have motion templates for everything, and I used the motion in limine long ago, but I don't have it in my templates. I want to add that along with this prosecutorial misconduct. I believe I have one of those. But Anyway, thanks. That's really good information.
Yeah, and if anyone
wants to use the Brady.
Yeah, and if anybody wants the motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct, it comes, if they need it after they've gotten the motion to dismiss package, then I send it. So that's why I recommend people stay in touch with me, do the role playing, and so if you need that, then I send it over with some of the instructions. All right. Well, those are good points. Did you have other questions?
Oh, yeah. Jerry Hardy got in touch with me. He couldn't call today, and this happened back, I know, a while ago. Well, it's been at least a month or so now. He got a ticket for long grass. He had 10 days to reply with 5 options on the back of the ticket. And, of course, none of the options are what we want. So he has now made 4 calls to the clerk during this time. The 10-day limit has gone by. He's concerned about having a warrant out for him. And the discussions that he had with the clerk, first off, the clerk asked him for a plea. She didn't even want to discuss anything with him until he entered a plea over the phone. And that seems to be a new tactic, along with one that I discovered myself. When you walk up to the window to check into court and they want to assign you a courtroom, they want you to give them a plea at the window. A little trick there.
That's not a new trick. There's a lot of places that have been doing that for a long time. So,
well, they're adding more and more. Camille, I remember, mentioned something about a pre-arraignment hearing. They're making more and more hoops so that you have to keep coming back, and defeats. They're trying to make you give up, basically. Yeah. So that's the one thing.
Well, we're up against a break, so we'll have to do this on off air, and it'll be part of the podcast. Plus, I don't really want to talk over Iron Maiden. But we'll be back here on the No State Project with the third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio in just a moment. So don't go away. Okay, we got a full line of calls, so let me kill the feed here for a moment, and we'll take care of it. We'll address Jerry's thing off air. Of course, thanks to Paisan Calvin, we'll have it all on the podcast. So they want him over the phone to give
a
plea before they'll hear any motion to dismiss.
Well, yeah. Now, see, he brought up the fact that he has motions and he wants to file these motions. And the clerk is telling him that he's in a magistrate court and there's no motions allowed. And she's also telling him that if it would be an ex parte violation if he filed motions, and she's giving him this big runaround, and he's tried to speak to her 4 times now. They won't submit his motions. I remember this clearly with someone else that was just here recently, not here in the show, but one of our calls, one of my whatever, and they are totally trying to tell you that you cannot file motions. We're not going to accept your motions. Sorry, go away. How do you get around this? I mean, that seems like a due process violation to me.
Well, yeah, I mentioned this on the Wednesday show. What I would do is I would get the name of the clerk, and I would record the call, let them know, I need you to tell me again so that I have a record of it that you're not going to accept my paperwork. And then I would file a complaint with I would mail it. And when they didn't accept it, then I would file a complaint with the presiding judge. And then I would also file a complaint with the city clerk, with the city council or the county commissioners, whoever it happens to be, and make a big stink about it. The idea, look, they try to pull that crap. What I would do for him also, I said, look, I am more than happy and intend on pleading guilty. However, is there any evidence in the record before you right now that would prove that you have jurisdiction to even require a plea from me?
Right. Excellent. Okay, and this is going to be on the podcast, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good deal. Excellent. Thank you, Mark. That was my major stuff. I had some stuff I wanted to talk to you about, Christopher, the guy that you dropped in the night before his trial, but I'll do that next time. That was a good story, and we helped the guy in less than 12 hours. So
nice.
We can deal with that next time.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you, sir.
I appreciate the call. Tom in Detroit, the Big D.
Rock on, brother.
Yep, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, Tom. We'll be back here on the No State Project in just a moment. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. The third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio right here on the Liberty Radio Network. I'm Mark Stevens. The what do you call that? The website is markstevens.net. And I'm looking at the chat here. Good call. My paisan up there in the Toronto area, Keith. Glad to see buddy Keith back here for the broadcast, posting the Black Sabbath live in Paris 1970. Oh my gosh. The only way that show could have been better is if they had actually written Supernaut already. But other than that, unbelievable show. Mad respect for, these guys were some... And then again, Keith, you may not know this, but Geezer Butler, the main driving force for Black Sabbath, because the main songwriter, of course, one of the best bassists ever, lifelong vegan. So, and props to Tom, who's made some changes and may actually be trying, going vegan. I forgot to mention that when he was on with us. I do want to mention that, like before, if someone calls me directly on Skype during a broadcast, and it wasn't a situation like the last show where I was actually saying to do that, because I usually say, I'll turn it down. And I always take calls in the order. I try to take the calls in the order that they come in. I just think it's fair. So I know there are people who have been on for a while and been patient. I appreciate that. I'm not going to give the call-in number out anymore because we only have a few segments left, and if we can, maybe we'll go. If we have to, we'll go a little bit after the show. But I want to bring back. He's been on the show before. Chris from Connecticut. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, Mark. It's Chris up here in Connecticut.
Yeah. What do you got for us today? Good news?
Well, I had called. I don't know if you recall. I'll have to remind you if you don't recall. I'm the one who was up here fishing without a license.
Yes.
Yeah, and they, so just to recap what I had already done, I challenged the applicability of the law, or I should say the code, since it's a town code. I challenged the applicability of it, and so the prosecutor on my hearing already knew where I was attempting to go with this, and she immediately walked into court and told the judge, listen, I'm going to have to ask for a continuance on this because we have a challenge of applicability. And the judge just looked at the calendar and says, okay, looked at me and says, everybody agree on 30 days? So okay, well, I guess I'll be back.
Oh,
so,
Chris, well, why? Why didn't you at least object?
I was going to, but then I says, you know what? Let's see what they come up with in 30 days. And we know that they're not going to come up with anything.
Yeah,
so,
but all right, well, let me put this out there. This is a great story. For those listening, when they do something like that, at least just put the objection out there so that you can get some kind of commitment, at least a little bit more specific of a commitment from the prosecutor, so that you can then use against later to show that they were lying through their teeth.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah, now that I think about it now, I think I should have said something. But, like we always say, it's a little different when you're standing before them.
Yes, this is why we do so much role-playing. And Ginger, props, the guy's great. You have to spend the time doing the role-playing. It is worth it. I'm not, the better prepared we are. And that's why I say so often, man, you guys, we got to get to these city council meetings. And that really helps. So that when they throw something out there, because, look, already know that they can't present the evidence. So why not?
This is going to get a whole lot better because their 30 days expired 2 days ago.
Oh!
So
they ran the clock.
On day 28, I called the court, or I called the clerk's office, and I says, listen, you folks told me I was going to get something in the mail before the 30 days is up, and said that it's going to have my new hearing date on it. I says, what gives? I said, we're on day 28 here. I said, what's going on? And they punched it up and says, she says, and I think I was talking to the city clerk or the court clerk there, and she says, well, it looks like the prosecutor filed a motion to the judge, and the judge granted her another 90 days.
90?
I said, what? Oh, so that's my question. How? Now, here we go, with them pulling new stuff, out of their hats. It's things that I've never seen before. Are they allowed to do this behind my back?
Well, there's a technical word for behind your back. It's one of those fancy Latin phrases. It's called ex parte communication. Ex parte. And it is a sufficient enough of a violation of the protocol, the rules, to actually not only sanction an attorney, but they could be disbarred. Ex parte communication is really bad.
Filing a request saying, listen, I know my 30 days is pretty much expired. I need 90 more. And it was granted.
Ex parte.
Oh.
Well, wait.
Okay, so now I've taken 2 steps back and taken a look at this and saying, okay, so basically what she's saying is she needs 4 months to come up with a piece of evidence, which I don't care if we give her 4 years. She's not going to be able to come up with anything. But I want to be able to go in there and say, Your Honor, I object. But if they're doing this stuff behind my back, I can't.
Well, you can. You need to point out that you've gotten proof now. You should be able to at least get something online that would indicate that. If not, I would get a printout of the docket from the clerk, so that you can prove that there was ex parte communication, and that is completely that's wrong, and I say to everybody, and it's in the instructions. I'm very clear about this. Every single piece of communication, let's say motion pleadings that you have with the judge, you have to provide a copy to opposing counsel. You have to. End of discussion. It's not up for dispute. It's irrefutable to us because it's a matter of due process. It's a matter of fairness for me and you. And for them to not do, that's bad. That's bad. So get your evidence against it first. Hopefully you don't have to go down there or call and have them print it out for you. You can just get it off their website. And
I did call the prosecutor's office, and all I was going to ask them for was a copy of the updated file. I didn't want a copy of what happened 30 days before that. I wanted a copy of of her motion and a copy of his judgment saying I grant it. I did ask. Well, I don't even know who I was talking to over there. I'm assuming it was an assistant DA. But the woman on the phone was like, well, she's like, I'm reading over this file, and she says, it seems to me that you're going. What did she say? You're dragging this out. You're making a fight where there really shouldn't be one. Huh?
Oh, the one with the prison system is saying that, right?
Yeah, she said, well, you're making a fight where there really shouldn't be one. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, so just pay up and shut up, right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and she says, well, yes, I do have that here. It is, the judge did grant the 90 days. And I said, well, can I get a copy of it? And she says, yeah, sure, I'll send you one. So here I am. I'm waiting to see if I ever get that.
Yeah, well, I'd still go to the clerk and see if you can get that, because I would then file a motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct, because you can add to it the ex parte communication, because take the judge out of it for just a second. They were still required to send you a copy of the motion for more time. So we're up against a break. But, well, hold on just 1 second, Chris. We'll be back with Chris in Connecticut in just a moment. Don't go away. Okay, what was the question? I'm sorry, the feed was too loud.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. She had even said, you're making more trouble than this is even worth. And I'm like, oh, okay. So basically, I'm causing you people a heart attack. But I'm supposed to care about that.
Yeah,
I'm causing problems to the DA's office.
You know, it's a great admission, and then they probably won't oppose a motion to dismiss at this particular point. I would get my evidence first because you can get that pretty quick. You've probably got at least a month before they're going to set this for a hearing, so you got plenty of time to take a few days, to get the evidence you need and file the motion. That is a clear-cut example of misconduct. Yes, the judge granted ex parte. The judge let's give him the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe he didn't know that you didn't get a copy of the motion, that you didn't have an opportunity to object.
So yeah, that I was thinking about that too. He might be oblivious to it, but yet I'm still on the phone with this DA lady. So I said, so basically, I said, listen, all I'm waiting for is evidence that the rules are applicable. And she, on the phone, I wish I had this recorded, she said, well, they are. And I said, what? I says, yeah, because you say. And she goes, no, it's not because I say. She goes, let me ask you this. She goes, you live here, don't you? Define here.
Oh, you don't do that.
Well, she said, I live here. I want to know what she means by here.
Well, you can ask her to clarify. Look, is it your position, which I think it is, that just because I'm physically in Connecticut, your rules apply to me? And she'll say yes. And then we'll back to square one. What proof do you have that that's true?
Well, that's what I'm trying. That's what I asked on my first hearing. I go, I'm not arguing that you have rules and codes written down. You probably do. I want proof that they're applicable to me.
Yep.
And she said in the first hearing 30 days ago, she said, absolutely, I don't have it with me. We will provide that to you. Okay. We're still waiting.
Okay, wait. She said, I don't have it with me.
Right. Don't have it with me. We will present that in court. Okay, when?
She lied.
Of course she lied.
Well,
but it was behind closed doors because in this type of hearing, you stand in line and the prosecutor will call the next name, and you go into her little office,
right?
And she says, "Okay, this is what I have in front of you. In front of me. Okay, what do you want to do with it?"
Well, yeah, it's like a plea negotiation, but you have to actually quote her.
And I told her, she tried to even cut it in half, make a deal with me.
Sure.
Because, of course, there's always a deal. And I said, no deal. I want evidence that your rules apply to me. Because if I pay, that's an admission of guilt, and the rules apply.
Well, right. So, but you want to quote her from there. Use her, quote her the best to your recollection that's what she said. Because
I remember that. That's what she said. She goes, well, I don't have it in my office with me, but I'll research it and I'll get it and we will present it in court.
Oh, I'll research it. So you don't have the evidence and yet you filed against me anyway.
Right. You filed against me anyway.
There's your prosecutorial misconduct. We're back here live on the No State Project. We're back here live on the No State Project. We're talking with Chris in Connecticut, and great call. Really appreciate you calling in and giving us an update on this. So what we were just talking about, which you can hear the last few minutes on the podcast, what we're talking about is Chris had met with the prosecution, and he's asking for the evidence. They want to make a deal with him, and he's refusing. He just wants to see the evidence, and then he'll make a deal. And the prosecutor is saying that they don't have the evidence, but they'll get it and present it in court. And when pressed on it, she said to him that she would have to research it. So what we're talking about here is just a clear-cut case of prosecutorial misconduct where she filed a complaint, is actively prosecuting, and is admitting she have to research to get the evidence against him.
Oh! Yep, that's 100% true.
Oh, my gosh. And all that means...
Now here's the thing. If I make the ex parte complaint, like we talked about before the break, should I present that to the judge who probably would be the same judge who granted her 90-day extension?
Well, yes, you have no choice because the presiding judge, if there is one, won't take it at this point. I think we have to give the benefit of the doubt here. There's no evidence. We have nothing to show that the judge knew. You haven't seen the motion, so you don't know if there was a certificate of service on there. We don't know.
No, I don't.
So we have to look. Honesty tells me I have to give the judge a benefit of the doubt here. So he was in the dark. He didn't know it was ex parte. You have no choice. You have to present it to him. But it's the ex parte should be in the motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct and include in there, of course, the statements that we were just talking about that I was quoting. The judge needs to, that needs to be in there because together with the ex parte communication, the fact that she is admitting she admitted it. She didn't have it. She was standing there in open court. And just for future reference, in a situation like that, we object. I will plead guilty right now if you can put the evidence on the table setting forth jurisdiction. And that just because I'm physically in Connecticut, your rules apply to me. Right now. Let's see it. It's go time. But she lied. She lied. This is you have an open shut case of prosecutorial misconduct. If she's a city employee, then I would file a claim against the city's risk management. If she's a county employee, I would file it against the county's risk management.
Here in Connecticut, they're state workers.
Oh, well then there'll be state risk. There should be a risk management for the state. And
it's in our capital. It's in the city of Hartford.
Oh, gee, and insurance, risk management in Hartford, there's a shock.
Yeah, I know, huh? Yeah, we used to be the insurance capital of the whole country. Not anymore. Pretty much all the big insurance companies have gone down to Atlanta.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. You see, I love this. Look, I travel an awful lot from Phoenix to California, and it's as boring a trip as you can get. And so a couple of years ago, I found on satellite radio, we were listening to some of the old radio shows, and there is Johnny Dollar, and he's an insurance investigator, and he's always talking about the home office in Hartford.
Oh, for which company?
Oh, there were fictional companies. Yeah, it was a radio. He was just a fictional character, but he was always talking about some. I can't remember. But if you go to YouTube, you can just type in yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and you can in the first 2 minutes you'll hear which insurance company. He's a freelance insurance investigator, and he's got the world's most action-packed expense account. And I hope there's some people laughing at these references. And so he always...
Well, Aetna is still here. Aetna's home office is still here. Cigna is still here. United Healthcare is still here. Who else? AIG is still here. And the Hartford is still here.
Oh.
So we still got a couple big players.
Oh, well, yeah. I actually, my old man worked for the two biggest in New York. He was with Sedgwick James, and before that he was with Marsh & McLennan.
Oh, okay. I've heard of Marshall McLennan.
You never heard it? Well, Sedgwick James, I think, was bought out a number of years ago by Marsh & McLennan. So Marsh & McLennan is the biggest, if not, one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah. It's a pretty big outfit from what I understand.
Yeah. We got to get back to this is great. This is, and that's how I would resolve this. I would get the evidence of the ex parte communication. I would put her
Now,
statement.
You said file this with the judge.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you're going to want me to mail this.
I mail it and make sure you send a copy to the prosecutor. You're not going to do what she did.
Because whenever I do communications with court, I always send it registered mail.
You don't need to do that. It's not necessary. I always send it regular mail. The only time I do it registered mail is when or certified. Well, I always do registered. There's got to be exceptional circumstances. It used to be that every collection due process hearing request had to be registered mail because they 100% of the time denied that they got it timely. So they wanted to move you into an equivalency hearing, which is even worse. So, but just things like this, we just do it regular mail is fine. Because then the burden will shift to the, you can get a certificate of mailing. It costs it's like 50 cents. And it's really the same thing as certified. You just have proof that you mailed it. And as long as you have proof that you mail it, the burden shifts to the prosecution to somehow prove they didn't get it. And good luck with that. Because
all right, Mark, I appreciate all your assistance. Thank you very much.
Oh, keep us in the loop, please.
Absolutely. I don't, well, we know how the state drags their feet, so I will let you know when I know.
Well, get with me off air, and I'll email you a copy of the motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct.
No problem.
All right. Hey, appreciate the call.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Chris in Connecticut. So hopefully, wow, that... I don't have the evidence. I have the research, and you filed a complaint against me. You snake, yo. I think we got a new caller in Washington. We have area code 530. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Great. This is Tyler. I'm calling from Napa Valley, California. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well. What do you got for us?
I have a big concern. I have experience with the courts, and I've been watching your videos. I've been watching Joe from Hawaii's videos for the past 6 months. And then just on January 2nd, like literally 5 days ago, I got fired from my job. And I'm an Uber driver in California. And so when I asked Uber, what's going on? What do you mean? Why was I deactivated? They told me that they had a report from the DMV that caused me to be deactivated. I immediately called DMV, give them my information. They tell me, I told her, I says, you guys got me fired from my job. All you had to do is give me a phone call. If you guys have a court order to shut down my driver's license, why not have a court order just to call me and figure out where I'm at? So long story short, she tells me I have 2 tickets out of Napa Valley.
2 tickets? Well, Tyler, hold on. We're up against the break, so we'll continue off air, but just hold on a second.
Perfect, and I'm ready to make the point then.
Okay, my name is Marc Stevens, and we're all listening to the No State Project. We'll be back in just a few moments, so don't go away. We got a lot more to get to. Okay, so you got these 2 tickets.
So I got these 2 tickets, apparently, and they were for running a red light. And she even told me on the phone, one of them, she goes, well, I don't even think it's even a red light, but I'm not sure what's happening here. And says, ma'am, I was never noticed. You never gave me any information. I've never received anything in the mail. And then she read off a P.O. box number and says, no, that's not even my P.O. box number. So my question is, I have a good friend of mine that's an attorney, and he has never been able to give me good advice, and now I'm understanding from watching all these videos as to why he couldn't help me without me consenting to their jurisdiction. And so this whole time I'm completely blasted all this week. It turns out I don't know where and how to approach the court because my friend says, just go in there. Go in there and talk to them. And I says, well, I don't want to be arrested and thrown in a cage against my will for trying to figure out why they had an entire case with 2 tickets of failure to pay. And so I think to myself, if I have a failure to pay, there had to have been a court case where I was found guilty and told I owed, right?
Well, they could have been where they because it's not criminal, and they sent notice to the wrong address. Yeah, they sent notice to the wrong address, and then just found you guilty as they do, and then give after so many days that you don't pay, or maybe you don't pay immediately, then they issue an order based on that.
And this was an alleged running a red light in May of 2016. And it just caught up to me, and they didn't contact me. They didn't give me anything, nothing other than now I'm fired. So my buddy that's an attorney says, go in there. He goes, your number one goal is to get your license back because I don't have any money now because I'm check to check, week to week. You get paid weekly. I mean, I can't pay their fines now because they destroyed my life. So I can't afford rent, so I've been asked to move. I have to move on the 16th because I didn't pay rent on the 1st through the 5th. So now I have to move out on the 16th. So I'm going to be fighting for my liberty in my car because they didn't notice me. And my attorney friend, he goes, says, stick to the facts. They didn't notice you. They couldn't have proceeded without noticing you. And I told him, I says, look, but they didn't even have jurisdiction to proceed anyway, did they? And my attorney friend, he goes, don't go there because you're going to upset the court. Just go in and see what they can do. You got to get it undone and then try to start over or proceed forward from there. But what I'm confused about is if I go into court on Monday and I show up and I demand a Brady verbally and I say, what happened and who are you and why was I denied due process? Why was I not informed of the nature and cause of these proceedings back 6 months ago? And it's all going to come down to the fact that I was never noticed.
Well, right, and I just want to address for those who'll be listening, you don't consent to jurisdiction. They don't do anything to try to get you to consent. They just assume that they have it because you're physically there. I think it may be a simple fix, at least in the short term, by filing a motion to vacate the judgment and the orders based on a lack of due process that they sent notice to the wrong address. That you never had any.
I understand from like the videos and from what you told a guy just on January 4th, a couple of days ago. I watched your video and you says, oh, you got to get that undone. That's why I wanted to call you and talk to you today, because that seems like the same advice my attorney gave me. However, my attorney friend, not my attorney, but my friend that's an attorney, he told me, he goes, just go in there and see what they're willing to do. But here it is Saturday. I have time to type up some motions before Monday morning and go submit them Monday. So my question is it more efficient? Is it more effective for me to go in with the Columbo approach and say, who are you? What is happening here? Why did this happen to me? Can we back up here for a second? Or should I just show up Monday morning and be the thorn in their side with a bunch of motions and drag this out for 6 months and starve to death?
No, I think the way I would approach it, and welcome back, everyone. We're back here live on the No State Project, talking with Tyler in California. I think look, I think this is easily fixed in the short term by filing the motion, just sticking to the issue of they sent it to the wrong address. You had absolutely no idea that there was a ticket issued. You had no idea that there was court, and the judgment should be vacated on those grounds alone. Then...
So your suggestion, I know this isn't legal advice, I understand all that, but your suggestion in this scenario is to file motions before showing up and asking the judge, what is happening? What is this? What happened here?
Well, I would file the motion. You can.
Happened to me.
Go in Monday. Go in Monday with the motion in hand and say this needs to be looked at right now, immediately, and a decision needs to be made
before the judge with it in my hand, or go in and file it and then go before a judge. I'm confused on the logistics part of it because I just want to be the most effective.
Well, you can go and file it and say I need to see a judge. The judge who ruled against me, I need to see them as soon as possible.
Okay. That honestly, that answers my question, because, I mean, I've typed motions, I've done habeas corpuses in federal court, and I understand the nature of a motion, but I'm just trying to stick with all of the facts. So aside from just not being given the proper notice, they proceeded. So is it fair to say that I'm asking also for a dismissal for a violation of due process? I was denied my right to know the nature and cause of the proceedings. I was also denied my right to cross-examine. I was also denied my right for a final comment. Is that too much? Or just stick with the, hey, I don't know what happened here. You guys got the wrong address. Can we back up here? I need to vacate this and start over? Or I'm not sure what demeanor to take with these scumbags.
I would start with, hey, this needs to be vacated. You're ruining my life. I never had an opportunity to defend against this. Once it's vacated and you can get your job back, then you can work on the motion to dismiss the underlying complaint that started all this, and then you can go through that. But you got to get your life back now, and so the best way I think to do that is to, hey, look, I didn't get notice. It's easy. They understand that. It's not a threat to anybody. They just, it was a simple clerical error that just unfortunately led to you losing your job. But it should be, I can't even, as bad as they are, I think the worst that they would do is say, look, all right, you're going to have to still put up a bond then. You're going to have to put up something to cover the fine. and then you could get.
Yeah, but see, when they get you fired from your job, and now you don't have the money for any of that because of their actions based on denying me my right to even defend myself in court, and now they cause me to be properus. So I can file. Well, that's appealing. I'm not appealing. I'm going in pauperous now. I'm going in destroyed.
Yeah.
It's like, Judge, I can't even pay for a bus ticket to get here to your court because of what you did ended my income. And now, but here's the thing. I called the court on Thursday. She goes, let me figure out what's going on, and we'll have somebody from the traffic court call you back. Well, now they didn't. And so here it is the weekend. Nobody called me back. And I'm just concerned. I don't want to go in too much and lose instantly. I just got to get my license back because the DMV told me. She literally told me on the phone Thursday that it only takes 15 minutes and only the court can release the information to the DMV. I can't go get minutes from the court. I can't submit them to. She goes, no, you can't submit anything. It's all electronic, and the court has to notify us, and they can do it in 15 minutes, is what she said to me repeatedly. And I was like, okay, great. So then all we got to do is just work it out with the court to release this, maybe schedule another court date, and then fight them on the grounds of jurisdiction once I get my license back.
Yeah.
For me, the motivation is getting the license back so I can now have a week of income to feed myself.
Of course. So that's the way. That's the way I would handle.
Lost $3,000 from these people. The loss that I just suffered is 4 times worse than any red light ticket of $400.
Yeah, it sucks. And this is, I think, to me, this is the only and the best and quickest fix is to just point out you weren't served. So you can get your job back.
Even on your site, even Tom is saying they don't care, Tyler. They are psychopaths. Well, it's not about being psychopath. It's about doing an ex parte ticket behind your back for 6 months, getting you fired when all they could have done was contacted the DMV for my phone number.
Well,
So
you see,
I am just trying to get them to give me my life back so that I can fight them another day.
Yeah, they're psychos. However, they don't act across the board openly psychopathic. They don't do that in every. We still have more things tossed out than not. I mean, Ginger never would have been able to call the show and have documentation that his ticket was dismissed for lack of evidence if they were all openly, acting like psychos. They're not. They have those tendencies, but here I think you got a really good chance at just doing a simple motion, 1 page. It was all sent to the wrong address. I had no notification. It needs to be vacated.
Stick to that and just stick to the facts and don't let them push me around from there and just hope that the judges go, oh, okay, well, what at that point? Would he reschedule another date, or what should I ask him? Can we reschedule this? And then once I can get it cleared up, but I need to tell the judge, I need to have my driver's license lifted. Otherwise, you have just turned me into another homeless case that is never going to recover because you have got me suppressed through the DMV. Here's the point I'm trying to make is I'm permanently disabled. I have limited disabilities where now, after 5 work comp cases and multiple surgeries, the only thing I can do to survive is drive. I've been denied Social Security because of my disabilities. I have a 35-degree curvature of scoliosis. I'm deformed, but yet I can drive a car. I can drive just fine, and I drive all day. So the one thing that the devil tried to do was come after me was through my only ability to survive.
Yeah.
My government is attacking my ability to feed myself over a $400 ticket that I could have paid 5 months ago had they properly notified me.
Yeah.
But what they've done is chosen to exert their violence on my life and destroy me in all over $400 running a red light ticket that they never told me about.
Yeah, they've done. It's a thing where somebody maybe not pay $400 or $500 on property taxes, and they take and seize the house. They seize the house and throw them out. And then some fly by night wannabe entrepreneur. Who's been watching, infomercials at 3:00 in the morning? Hey, I can buy those and get the house. So it's a vicious cycle. Well, I'm going to try to get some more calls in before we're out of time, but that's what I would do. You can contact me off air.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, you're welcome. And you can contact me off air for some help with that motion.
And how do I get to do that? Just through the chat or through email you?
You can email me. Email is markstevens@mail.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. It's glad talking to you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome,
it.
man. It was good talk with you. Hopefully we get that straightened out. We do our best to get to everybody. We got area code 4. I've never seen that one before. 484. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Mark. My name is Joe Brennan, and I'm calling from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Joe from Reading. Hey, is that far from Scranton?
It is actually. It's about we're south of Scranton. I'm about 2-3 hours south of Scranton.
Wow, you're practically into, what is that, Maryland?
Yeah, I'm not too far from Maryland. I'm about I'd say about an hour and a half maybe from Maryland.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm Berks County, right in between Harrisburg and Allentown. If you're familiar with Allentown, PA.
I've not been there. I know people who have in Harrisburg. Yeah, wow. Well, hey, it's a good thing you're not there.
Yeah, you know what? We had a little bit of snow today, and I've been trying to get a hold of you, Mark. I just want to get right to the point. So I've listened to you for a while, so I'm going to try to make this quick, and hopefully if I'm winded, let me know. So long story short, I got 2 speeding tickets within the same jurisdiction in Lindley Township. I have all my docket numbers, my case numbers. So I was listening to your show. I got nervous because they got me doing 90, 92, and a 65. The state police that allegedly said that that's what I was doing. And then I came across you. I started watching your tapes, your website, and I started listening for a while. And to make it a long story short, what you've done and what you've recommended to people has worked. And I've downloaded Black's Law. I've downloaded, just my level of understanding between an ordinance and a code and a statute since listening to you has gone up, and it's actually made me more informed. So I want to say thank you for that. But there's something that, how this turned out, I'm going to get how it turned out. I filed my motion to dismiss. I filed a motion to recuse. The judge, as you said, they get belligerent. It's in Lindley Township in New York. Okay, so small town in the middle of nowhere. I was on my way up to Buffalo. Okay, so the judge got ruled. She was used to dealing with people not, it's a small. Put it this way, the courtroom was it's attached to the post office. Okay, that's how small the township is here. But I got pulled over by a state police officer. So, long story short, I filed all my motions. I did everything. My original court date was in April. And my final court date was in September 20th of 2015. So what happened? The judge, I filed a motion to dismiss, filed a motion to recuse because of the conflict of interest and all the other things that I witnessed. I mean, the ADA was in the back with the judge laughing and carrying on like before my trial, and I'm thinking to myself, this is what my court case is. This is what we've come to. And so, long story short, here's what happened. They pulled me aside to my actual trial. The cop showed up. I signed in. He was standing there, and they asked me to step outside the ADA, and she said, we're willing to drop you down from a 92 to an 86, which dropped it down like a tier. So instead of a $400 fine, it got down to a $181 fine. Instead of 6 points in the state of New York, it dropped it down to 3 points.
Whoa,
so
that's huge.
Yes, it's very huge. So hold on. So here's what happened. So I took the plea, and I took it because I said to the prosecutor, I said to the AD, I said, I want to be able to still file an appeal. And when I said that, the look on her face was priceless. She was like, shit. Because I think what they realized is they denied my motion to dismiss. They denied my motion to recuse because I filed it because, and I didn't even know prior to listening to you that I had all these things available that I could do this. So I took the plea. So I stood up there, and the judge, she said, how do you plea? And I said, Your Honor, I took the plea given. But here's where it gets interesting. I hadn't received one single thing, and I regret not getting a copy of the transcript or anything before I left that courtroom. So my question is, do they do something with the stack of papers that they know that they're wrong for? Because what I understand, I've tried researching, they submit this, right? This then gets submitted to the state or something. So do they do something with papers, Mark, that, because I haven't received anything from this township since September, and now I'm worried that maybe I got a warrant that I don't know about. Is that possible?
I guess it's possible. I mean, didn't you wind up paying the $181?
No, because what happened, Mark, is she said to me, the judge says, Mr. Brennan, would you want to go on a payment plan? And I said, I don't need a payment plan. I could have paid it right there. But I'm thinking, well, why am I going to give my money to the state when I can do something else with it in the meantime? So I said, sure. She goes, how long is it going to take you to pay? And I said, 3 months, because that seemed to be the number that this judge was throwing out. Tracy Wilson's, am I allowed to mention names?
Yeah, if you want to mention a politician or a bureaucrat's name, go right ahead.
Yeah, so that's what Wilson, Judge Tracy, she said, how long do you want? I said 3 months, because I heard her. That's what she was giving out these other guys that were before. And so then she said fine, and she put the gavel down and said that's it. I walked out, and the state cop, I mean, he was all nice to me then. He was like, hey, what are you doing up this way? And, he was all buddy with me then. And then, I was like, well, actually, I go hunting right over here in Tioga County, which is right, on the Pennsylvania side, not on the New York side. And, he turned out to be a decent guy. I mean, with all due respect, the guy was, they do their jobs, but I understand. But my question is, now I'm a little worried that I hadn't received anything. And I could have sworn I heard you say on one of your shows that they do something with these papers where they don't necessarily submit them, or they don't do anything with them. They just kind of sit there. Is that right? Am I interpreting that right?
Well, there's a lot of times they do that, especially with a situation, where with that Chris is going through in Connecticut, where they want to run the clock, for example. Or the IRS is notorious for that. They just you don't have to take any action right now. We're going to investigate this, and we need another 90 days. And 6 months later, you still haven't heard anything. You don't know what the hell's going on. Here, I think I would get in touch and I would find out. There should have been some written order that the judge would give you regarding the judgment against you, and that the fine was $181.
Yeah, I thought, I'm dreading to make that call. I mean, because here's what I'm kind of thinking. I was hoping that I kind of did beat this case, and I was kind of hoping that, and that's maybe why they haven't submitted anything, or maybe the judge knows something like, oh, well, she knows that maybe I'm not going to call, and like the clock's ticking, and like the fine's going to go from bigger from now, like, oh, because now I didn't pay it. So now all of a sudden there's going to be a warrant, and it's going to jump up from $181 to $1,000 or something.
Well, you can check if it's a small place, they may not have a website, but check to see if the court has a website and see what the disposition is. If you know somebody that's a friend or family that knows somebody in law enforcement, they could do you a favor and look up and see if there's a warrant for your arrest.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I do have, actually, it's funny, I do have friends that are police officers and state police officers and local police officers. Without getting on, I was actually on that road myself to come into law enforcement, and some of your things that, items that you discuss, I bring it up to them, and they kind of look at me, and they have like a smirk. These aren't like friends. These are like close friends, guys that I go hunting with, and they kind of smile, and they're like, they know that I know, they know that I know what they're doing, and it isn't right. Like they know that I'm a little bit more aware of what's going on than I was, in the past.
Well, have you made the ethical and moral issue with them, asking, hey, I know you guys are under the impression that if someone's physically in Pennsylvania, that the Constitution applies. Do you have any proof at all that that's true?
Well, I haven't done that. I haven't done that, and I'll tell you, because I'm still struggling with that, because I also I go on YouTube, and somebody I don't know if you saw this, that there's actually a counter video to your video when you make that claim, and I think it was saying that they were saying that you're making a hypothetical argument as opposed to a factual, I think is what the video was saying. So I'm not sure really, Mark, how I feel on that, or how I stand on whether or not that's, you know what I mean?
Okay, well, that's fine. One, I need you to send me a link to that video. I love to see it, because I know someone last year had put out 2 videos about me, and the guys on Quash were having, just thought it was the greatest thing in the world that someone finally did a video showing what an idiot I am, and I did a couple of shows about it, and I spoke about it. I think Calvin joined me on one of them, and the guy has a lot of videos debunking people, and the 2 videos about me were pulled. So, I soundly debunked what was in that, but the way I go about explaining to people, look, if you believe that just because you're physically in Pennsylvania, a written instrument from 200-something years ago applies to you and everybody else, then the burden lies on the one who's making that. So I always put the burden there. So if you believe that's true, do you have any proof? I mean, what proof is there that you know of as an adult who's lived there and has experienced these things? What evidence is there that would prove that that's true to you?
But then, Mark, do you not also take any of the constitutional rights that are granted to you? Do you not use them though? So if you want to say that they don't apply in this particular circumstance, but then when you need a constitutional right, do you not use that constitutional right at any other point down the road? No.
If you listen to the videos that I do, when I talk about a due process violation, I make it very clear that I am not invoking the due process protection for myself. What I'm saying is that the judge, who presumably does have an obligation to comply with due process, he violated his obligation to do that. So that's why I tell people, I've said this, many times, and never claim Fifth Amendment protection. In fact, on a call just today, I had to mention to somebody that filing in federal court, invoking federal protection, kind of takes, negates any kind of standing you have to challenge their claim that the Constitution applies to you, because you're saying it does. So I always say, never claim that you have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Just say, if you have to say something other than I don't answer questions and keep your mouth shut, it is, or excuse me, let me see if I understand you correctly. Are you trying to coerce me to be a witness against myself? And it's not because I'm saying the Fifth Amendment protects me. What I'm saying is the Fifth Amendment is supposed to presumably apply to them and get them to maybe change their behavior. But by asking me that question, you avoided answering my question. So first, and obviously, if you were a politician or someone I was, someone who was attacking someone I was worried, I wouldn't have let you get away with that. But since we're on the show, it's fine. But still, the question is, do you have any proof to support the claim that just because someone's physically in Pennsylvania, the Constitution applies to them?
So, Mark, I know you're not into the no free. Your show, you're an atheist, or not an atheist, anarchist, right? That's
anarchist.
Right. So what I'm saying is there any evidence, I think you mentioned Lysander Spooner, and I had never heard of him until you mentioned, so of course I had to go ahead and do research on him and his books, and so are you saying that, and what I think I've uncovered it as well, is that there is no evidence that the Constitution applies to any single one of us?
That's why I was asking, because there isn't any. And if someone was to say, if one of your friends would say, well, what evidence do you have that it doesn't? Well, first of all, don't shift the burden of proof. If you guys think, but the thing is, we can prove that, because what we call government is just men and women forcing us to pay them. And so what I do when I did it first in Adventures Legal Land, and of course I do it in Government Indicted, and I do it on most shows. Logically, knowing what we can prove and starting with what we can prove, we can destroy the argument that there is a state, citizens, and a government that passes laws, because there isn't. None of that's true. Because to have a government, you have to have a state. And to have a state, you have to have a body politic, which is comprised of citizens. That the citizen is a member of the body politic owing a duty of allegiance in return for a duty of protection. These are reciprocal obligations, one in consideration for the other. Now, that is the United States Supreme Court, that is black letter law. That's exactly what a citizen is. And that's why a naturalized citizen has to take an oath of allegiance. And if he doesn't take the oath of allegiance, they aren't citizens, because that's what makes them a citizen. And when you have just a group of men and women forcing us to pay them, and we know that's absolutely true. That is verifiable. You can do it. I can do it. Any one of us can. We can see videos. It's not up for dispute, not for reasonable dispute. So that's why I say you can't prove that there are citizens, because no reciprocal obligations of protection and allegiance are created when you threaten someone, I will put you in jail if you don't pay me. So, no duty of allegiance, no duty of protection, there is no citizen. No citizens, you have no body politic. Without a body politic, there is no state. Without a state, there is no government. You literally have men and women forcing us to pay them, which is why I say you begin and you end with the same set of facts. Men and women forcing us to pay them. And so that's the evidence that their laws don't apply. And the other thing, too, like Spooner pointed out, a written instrument would only apply to someone as a contract. And it doesn't even purport to be a contract. But we're completely out of time. Just hold tight. My name is Marc Stevens. This is the January 7th edition of the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We will be live this Wednesday for another broadcast. So till then, salud.
I've got one that can see.